Pakistan and Bangladesh. The two South Asian countries, which together was a single nation before 1971, previously known as East and West Pakistan. In 1971, Pakistan was 70% richer than Bangladesh. But now the tables have turned. Today Bangladesh is 45% richer than Pakistan. You see, after breaking up in 1971, both the countries were in a bad state. But in comparison, Pakistan had more resources than Bangladesh. In fact, Pakistan was better off than most post-colonial states in many terms, like economy, human development, infrastructure, and industrialization progress till the mid-1980s. At the same time, Bangladesh had to start from scratch, and build a political and economic structure to stand as a country. So it was a very slow start for them. But today when you look at these two nations, you will see a very different picture. On one hand, Bangladesh's remarkable performance during the past decades transformed the country's economy. Despite problems like political instability, poor infrastructure, corruption, and insufficient power supplies, the Bangladesh economy has grown 5.8% per year since 1996. Even during the 2008 financial crisis, Bangladesh's growth was resilient. On the other hand, when you look at Pakistan, in 2020 their public debt went past 87% of the GDP, and the country's total external debt and liabilities rose to $113.8 billion in the fiscal year 2020. Today the country spends 1/3 of its federal budget on repayments of these loans. At present Bangladesh's exports are double than Pakistan's. Also their currency, which is the taka, is nearly double than that of Pakistan's rupee. And the foreign exchange reserves held by Bangladesh are more than $41 billion, which is again double than Pakistan's $20 billion. Now what Pakistan has more than double of that of Bangladesh is the debt to GDP ratio. Bangladesh has a debt to GDP ratio of around 35%, whereas Pakistan's is 80%. And having a high debt to GDP ratio is not a good thing for any developing country. Now the question here is, how did a country like Bangladesh, which during its formation was predicted to fail and return to Pakistan, has achieved much more than them? Well, one of the main reasons is Bangladesh's industry. The country has become the second largest manufacturer of the ready-made garments. It is the main item of export, which accounts for 84% of total exports of the nation. This has happened because Bangladesh has a massive labor force, which is the 8th largest in the world. And they are capitalizing upon low-skilled labor force in the labor incentive export industries. It's the same strategy that many of the other Asian nations used for their industrial sector, specifically in manufacturing. Today the garment industry in the country provides direct employment for 4 million workers, and indirect employment to nearly 10 million people. It is estimated that 80% of workers in this industry are women, and this has a good impact on women empowerment in the country. Moreover, their garment industries benefited from custom-free access to many Western countries. As you know, Bangladesh is on the list of least developed countries, and many rich nations in the West removed the export duties to help the developing countries. This makes made in Bangladesh garments more competitive. You might be aware, Pakistan also tried to be an export giant in the garment industry. But despite being a cotton-growing country, it has failed to increase the exports beyond $10 billion. What makes this even worse is, Pakistan is now importing cotton. Due to lack of innovation and policies, the country is unable to capitalize upon its agricultural resources like cotton, and increase its exports of textiles and other products. Another reason behind Bangladesh's growth is, they primarily focuses on human development and economic growth. As a result, they are ahead of Pakistan in areas like women empowerment, passport index, literacy ratio, and also microcredit financing. You see, where Bangladesh's spendings are mainly focused on human development aspects like education and healthcare, Pakistan spends a big chunk of its budget on the military, leaving health and education far behind. Also, Pakistan is often criticized for terror financing and money laundering. And they are in a grey list of Financial Action Task Force. Because of this, investors are not confident to invest here. And definitely Bangladesh is a more investment-friendly country than Pakistan. Now, let's look at some numbers again. In terms of GDP, Pakistan was superior than Bangladesh for many years, but today's numbers really speak up for Bangladesh. And the same goes with the GDP per capita. This really shows us if you prioritize the right things, it will eventually lead you to growth. And that is what Bangladesh did, and Pakistan didn't. Here we need to understand, for Pakistan there is still an opportunity. The average age of its citizens is just 22 years. And this gives Pakistan an advantage in the demographic dividend. But this will be only advantageous if Pakistan prioritizes human development. When people will get good education, healthcare and other things, the productivity will eventually increase. Today Pakistan isn't exactly failed, but we cannot deny that it is on the verge of failing. So they need to understand, looking at Bangladesh's development model, what is really required for social and economic development. So, what do you think about this video? Tell us in the comments below. And if you are new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you.